Greetings, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey. Excellent. Gosh, so many great smiles on a Monday morning. I love it. Needed that.
Yes.
And I apologize. There is something, this is Dawn speaking, and I apologize. There is something going on with my video and I can't start it. So you'll just have to see my picture. I'm so sorry about that.
Is that Dylan from Representative Scott's office?
Yes, sir.
I do. I met you a couple years ago. Nice to have you with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And everyone's special on this call. I appreciate everyone.
Go ahead, Michael. Tell them how we're doing introductions today.
Okay. In the interest, we have such a great hour's worth, hour and 15 minutes worth of conversation. So we're gonna unusually keep our introductions short. So to introduce yourself today, please put your name and organization in the chat box. And you know, you may want to save the chat afterward so you can have your own recording of who was in the room today, and add your email address in case someone wants to connect with you. That way we quickly get to know each other. And if anyone, I'm just going to say this real quick in case anyone's never saved the chat before. You can go down to your Zoom menu under More and or the chat box. When the chat opens on the right-hand side, at the very bottom of the chat with all the participants, there's just 3 dots. And if you click on those 3 dots, you can hit save chat. You probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, you can save the chat to your own computer after the meeting, right before you leave. You'd want to do that. Another quick thing I'm going to say is we're into this pandemic for a year now. Many of us know that there's many ways to connect online. There's Zoom. What are some other ways people are connecting online? Okay, I'll just go ahead. For the interest of time, Google Meet, Teams, WebEx, BlueJean. You probably have been on a bunch. I do want to remind people that we are always on Zoom. And of course, for the people on this call, you already know that. But we find it necessary to repeat that sometimes because Google Meets has some way of injecting their links into our invitations. Even when we exclude them on purpose, there's a back end way they come out. So if you ever accidentally can't find us, remember that Factor is on Zoom. And with that, Dawn, those are all my introductions. Should I turn it over to you for our guest introductions?
Again, for those who just joined us, my name is Dawn Opara, and all you see today is my picture because I can't get my video to work. So, you know, I want to have a disclaimer first because talking about mental health is we probably won't do us justice. We can't do as much as we like in the hour plus that we have. So, you know, but we're going to get through as many questions as we can during this time. And if you have questions that come up during this time, please put them in the chat. Michael will be monitoring our chat so that we make sure we'll get to questions as they come up.
And Dawn, forgive me for interrupting, but please reminder to everyone to please enter your name, organization, and email address in the chat box. Lets everyone know who's there, and it will help us record who was in this meeting as well. So thank you so much. Also, if you're putting stuff in the chat, if you want to say a little bit about your organization, you're more than welcome to do that. You know, for people who are coming in for the first time.
So one, thank you all for being here. I so appreciate it. We know that many of you all are on, you work with human services in the human service field, and you work with people every day. And I know some people have expressed that they feel exhausted. And so for people who work with people on every day, I wanted to use what the airline industry says. In cases of emergency, please assist. For people assisting other people, please put your mask on first. And so I think for us who are in the mental health, in the human services field, or just work with people, that we need to do a few things. So we have the opportunity this morning to have a local mental health professional demonstrate a mental health wellness practice. I would like to introduce to you Miss Kimberly Maple. Hopefully you saw information about her in your invitation, but she will lead us through something practical for us to promote our own good mental health. And you might want to put yourself, so you can see her, you can put yourself on speaker mode. That way you don't have to look at everybody, but you can see our speaker. Miss Maple.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much, Dawn, for the lovely introduction. And thank you for having me today. I am so happy to be here with you. Anytime I give a presentation or do any kind of well-being exercise, I like to begin with a quote. And so today I'm going to read a quote that I've picked for us. And this one is here to remind us to create our own sense of inner peace. And the quote is this: "Peace is not the end of the mundane, troublesome, and painful moments of life. Peace is created in the midst of the mundane, troublesome, and painful moments. As we look for the good in all things, grasp tiny moments of joy glittering in the darkness, and gather hope into a soft place to rest when life grows hard." Okay, so today I'm here and I'm going to lead us through a brief mindfulness practice. And I always encourage people to do this or some kind of practice similar to this at least once daily. And the purpose of this practice is to cultivate your own sense of well-being by checking in with yourself, like truly slowing down, taking a pause to check in with how you're doing each day, like checking in with your body, your mind, your spirit, just to kind of see how you're doing. And so here's how I kind of think of this. People often, every single day of our lives, will say, "How are you?" And without thinking about it, our automatic response is, "I'm fine," or "I'm well." We just often offer that polite, habitual response. And the truth is, sometimes we are so busy in our lives, we're so busy serving, we don't really know how we are. We don't take time to really assess how we're doing. And so we just, respond habitually and we keep pushing on, many times to the detriment of our
She froze. I'll send her a chat. Dawn, if you have her cell phone, you may want to text her just in case.
I know she can only be on so long because she has clients that she's going to see. Let's just see if she unfreezes for a second.
For those of you who joined the meeting late, well, actually, let me enter these.
I'm going to try to call her.
I'll
Say it again.
Dr. Patterson? Dr. Patterson, I think you're on mute. You wanted to say something? Okay.
For those of you who've joined the meeting since we started, please be so kind as to enter your name, organization, and email address in the chat box. It's an abbreviated way of doing introductions today and will help us record who was here today and enable you all to save the chat and have record of people's contact information so we can increase our collaboration. And enter that in the chat box.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Deb.
We are going to go ahead. I can't get her online, so okay. Oh, wait. Well, maybe we can do a few housekeeping things, or maybe we can do our thing at the end now while I try to reach Miss Maple and see what's happening with her computer, okay? Lisa?
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Which Lisa?
Hi.
Go ahead, Miss Maple.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I think my Wi-Fi crashed, and so I'm coming back with my phone.
It looks like that's crashed too. Her email may not be, her internet may not be stable in her where she is right now. So what I'd like to do is ask Lisa Stanley to do what we would do at the end, which is our membership drive present to see who wins. Okay.
Hi,
Lisa.
everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you who were here last month, there are 2 people who won prizes for renewing their membership as of last month's meeting. So we added everybody back into the pool again today. You can't win twice. And we added a few other names. Thank you for renewing your membership. So today we have one more prize that's available. And my assistant is bringing it here. It's a wonderful microphone that you're going to find useful when you're doing all your Zoom meetings. As Michael said, that's what we're doing now. It's pretty awesome. And it sits on the desktop. It attaches. So I'm going to spin the wheel and we're going to draw 2 prizes, 1 prize today. All right. I'm not sure that I can't share my screen, but I'm going to spin the wheel. Okay, stand by. My other assistant is going to allow me to share the screen. That's Michael. All right, here we go. We're going to spin the wheel and let's see who's winning this beautiful microphone. Well, there you go. Fayette Clinic. Congratulations and thanks for renewing your membership. So we've given out 3 prizes for renewing membership in the past 2 months.
Thank y'all. That's awesome.
Great.
Congrats.
All right. It looks like Miss Maple's back.
Hopefully for good this time. I do apologize. So what I want to do is I just want to jump right to our practice and hopefully we won't have any more disruption to it. So what I'd like to do is invite you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes If not, you can just have a soft downward gaze. This practice is going to take maybe 5 minutes, and we're just going to go through, I'm going to lead you through some questions to help you to kind of check in with yourself, okay? So close your eyes and just relax your body, relax your posture, and start to take in some gentle breaths and then just let those out slowly. Just want to kind of slow that breath down. So take in a gentle breath and let it out slowly. Continue to let your body relax and sink into this moment. And as we continue, I want you to just keep that breath slow and soft and gentle. And I'm going to lead you through a series of questions for inner reflection. As I do, just listen to the words and be open to whatever arises inside of you. You don't have to worry. You don't have to strain to hear a certain answer or force a certain answer in any way. We're just listening. And you also don't have to feel overwhelmed by anything that you might have arise. We're not here to judge. We're just here to check in and listen to ourselves. And again, we're going to focus on 4 areas: mind, body, spirit, and soul. We're going to begin with the mind. So as you continue to breathe, just ask yourself, how is my mind today? What kinds of thoughts are flowing through my mind today? Are my thoughts more positive in nature? Do I sense that my mind is more negative today? Or maybe it's just in a place of neutrality. And what kind of emotions are flowing through my mind today? Do I sense any anxiety, any tension or stress, worry? Or am I feeling peaceful, calm, joyful? So what kind of emotions are flowing through my mind today? What am I carrying with me today mentally? Is there a burden I'm carrying in my mind? And then we'll come back to just that general question. How is my mind in this moment? And as you continue to breathe and just let your body be soft and relaxed, we're going to move on to asking some questions to check in with our body now. So the first being, how is my body in this moment? What body sensations am I feeling right now? Am I experiencing tension or stress points? Is my body feeling relaxed as I continue to breathe gently? How is my body experiencing what's happening right now in this moment? And what am I carrying with me physically today? And we're going to move on now to checking in with our spirit. So we'll begin with asking, how is my spirit feeling today? Am I feeling connected? Am I feeling disconnected from myself? Am I feeling present to myself and grounded? Or am I feeling uprooted, unsettled? We're just noticing in order to be aware. Am I feeling light in my spirit, or is my spirit feeling heavy and burdened right now? So how am I in spirit in this moment? And now we're going to move on to our soul. And the soul, as I see it, is all aspects of you. It's body, mind, spirit. The soul is really the altar of your true self. And if you believe in a divine, this is where we connect with the divine, is at the soul level. So, how is your soul feeling in this moment right now? Is there something that you're needing to accept or something you're needing to let go of? Is there something that you need to tend to or something that you need to say or do? Ask yourself, am I spending enough time nurturing my connection with myself at the deep level of the soul? So, how is my soul today? And as we begin to close, a final question to ask yourself. And if you take nothing else from this practice, this is the question that I would encourage you all to ask yourself every single day. And that is, what do I need to do to take care of myself today? And as you ask yourself that question, if something arises or something surfaces for you, are you willing to take steps to fulfill that need, to take care of yourself today? Because again, in order to have well-being in our communities, it has to begin with us as individuals. So what do I need to take care of myself today? So as we come to a conclusion in this practice, let's just take in a few more gentle breaths and let them go. And maybe set your intention to carry something forward from this practice for today. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. We appreciate the generosity of your time for being today, because I think it starts with us as we talk about mental health. Where are we? So thank you so very much for your time. Did you put your information in the chat?
I sure did.
Now, those questions, can I get a copy of those questions that you asked, be able to send out?
Absolutely. I can send to you a document that just has the practice, kind of the script. So if you want to practice it for yourself, I can send that to you today, Dawn.
Thank you so much. And I'll send it to others who might also want that. Thank you so very much. All
Thank you,
right.
everybody. Take good care and be well.
And Kimberly won't stay with us on the call because she has clients to see, but we thank her for taking time from her busy schedule to be with us. Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have our panel. And I just wanted to share just some things that, according to the Mental Health of America, some of the things that they've said when they look back at this is their report from 2021. They said the number of people looking for help with anxiety and depression has skyrocketed. The number of people who are reporting moderate to severe depression and anxiety has continued to increase throughout 2020 and remains higher than rates prior to COVID. And many more people are reporting frequent thoughts of suicide, self-harm than ever before. And young people are struggling the most with mental health. It's the proportion of youth ages 11 through 17 has really gone up. So, and rates of suicide ideation are highest among young people, especially from the LGBTQ plus youth. So I just wanted to share that as going in. And I want to be able to now introduce our panelists. We have Ms. Kenyatta Walker, who's the CEO of the McIntosh Trail Community Service Board, which provides mental health services. We have Ms. Sharon Grant, who's the founder and CEO of the Oasis of Serenity Counseling and Consulting Services. And we have Ms. Lakeisha Barter, coordinator of counseling and career development for Fayette County Schools. And I wanted to open, by asking each one of you all an opening question. Ms. Walker, could you tell us about the role of the McIntosh Trail as it relates to mental health services in Fayette County?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you, Dawn, and thank you to everyone for allowing me this opportunity. So McIntosh Trail is one of 25 community service boards in the state of Georgia. So we are governed by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Oftentimes people think of the state of Georgia with mental health services, they're thinking about DBHCD. So we serve at McIntosh Trail 7 counties where we provide mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disability services. So one of our counties is Fayette County, and we have a mental health clinic in Fayette County.
Okay, all righty. And you cover all things.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing with mental health. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Bonner, can you tell us what the school system does to address mental health issues that come up from students or staff who are concerned about students? That's Ms. Lakeisha Bonner.
I want to start off by saying that the school system approach to helping our students is a wraparound services approach. So I want to acknowledge a couple of people who are actually on this call, even though I may be doing the bulk of the speaking. We have some of our members of our wraparound services team. Dr. Julie Turner is on the call, Dr. Ted Lombard and Ms. Audrey Toney, along with several of our school social workers. It is a wraparound services initiative. We work collaboratively together to meet the needs of all of our students, to get resources. But it's important to understand that the school system, especially when we talk about mental illness, is we take a triage type approach to it because we recognize that in the school system, we can only go so deep. So having the resources, Fayette FACTOR, as well as other providers that we have locally to help support our students is very important. We focus a lot in the school system on social and emotional learning, helping to build those basic skills that our students need in order to be resilient, to be healthy, to be safe, and build those skills with the hopes that we won't need to refer a student because we're helping them, especially early on. I work with the school counselors and at all levels, and starting very early and helping our students to build those skills. But we also work as a wraparound services team to make sure that if we need more, we can actually reach out to our community to get additional support.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Now, I'll get back to this. You do some training for staff so that they can identify.
So over the last few years, we actually, myself and Yulene Polk, who is on the call as well, we are youth mental health first aid trainers in the county. So we've done youth mental health first aid training for our staff, faculty and staff. We have quite a few of our schools that have many of their staff members who have gone through the training. The majority of our school counselors have gone through the training, either that or the NAMI, ending the silence training as well. So we do that for our faculty and staff. We also have signs of suicide, which at our secondary level, our middle school and high school students go through signs of suicide. It helps to prepare our students and make our students more aware, not only of themselves, but of their peers, if they're seeing signs and symptoms, to make sure that they understand who in the building, that they have safe adults around them, whether that's in the actual school building or identifying those individuals in their lives to be able to go to get additional help for themselves, or if they're recognizing those signs and symptoms in friends to get assistance as well. So we used signs of suicide for our middle and high school students. We've utilized NAMI, ending the silence, as well with our faculty and staff, as well as we've offered that to parents. We've had sessions that we've offered to parents as well. And this year,
NAMI, when you say NAMI, can you tell everybody
NAMI
what that
is
acronym is?
The National Alliance for Mental Illness is
Yes.
Griffin RISA, which is a professional consortium that we utilize in the county. We're able to go through them in order to get additional professional training. They send it out for faculty and staff to sign up on their own, but we've utilized them to come in and actually intentionally did some targeted where we've advertised it to parents as well as faculty and staff to be able to come and get training. So I apologize. In education, we use a lot of acronyms, so I have to thank you for reminding me to tell you what those acronyms mean. And then we have sources of strength, and this is the first year, and actually it's been probably a little rocky first year. Sources of Strength is a student organization that we have a couple of our schools, Whitewater Middle, McIntosh High School, and Whitewater High School. They were starting this year to get that. They started their training last year, and they had to continue the training with the students and the faculty and staff this year. So it'll probably be another year before they're up and running with that because there's some intense training that's involved. But since we've been doing signs of suicide for some time now in the schools, we felt now that we've helped our students to become more aware. Now we've had a lot of students who want to take that leadership role in helping to identify, provide the resources. So Sources of Strength, through a grant that we got from the state, we have some schools that are starting that initiative as well.
Thank you so much. And now to Ms. Grant, this is a nice lead up. In your private practice, what are some of the issues around mental health that are presenting themselves? What are you seeing?
Well, we're talking about the stigma of mental health. So oftentimes when people call in, they are unsure about what exactly does counseling do. They are afraid of being referred to, excuse my expression, of being called crazy. And so, on the front end, we talk a little bit about what mental health is, what mental illness is, my role as the therapist, their role as the client, and how I can best meet what their needs are.
Okay. For everybody, how do you describe, before we talk more about mental health, how would you all describe what good mental health looks like?
So this is Kenyatta Walker. So when I think about good mental health, I think about just being able to cope with the normal stressors of life. Life happens, life comes at us every day. So being able to express ourselves, being able to express our feelings and manage those things. And then just being able to have good and positive, lasting relationships with others and feeling good about yourself. It's what good mental health looks like to me.
Anybody else want to share? Any of our panelists?
When I think about good mental health, I think about being able to fulfill your responsibilities, whether it be your responsibilities at work, your responsibilities at home as a parent, your responsibilities in your community. Another thing is, I think Kenyatta just mentioned this, but this is a big one, just having self-awareness and having confidence about yourself, being able to make right choices and decisions for yourself. That's very important, symbolizes good mental health. Being able to think and make decisions as needed in your sphere of control. Some of the things that come to mind for me.
Okay. Do you have anything different to add, Ms. Bonner?
So from a school standpoint, we're wanting to make sure that students are in an environment where they feel valued, trusted, safe. So from a school standpoint, we want to make sure when students walk into the building, that mental health starts with them really feeling like they're in a place where they're safe and loved and cared for. Then we are providing them with opportunities to learn and grow those social and emotional skills that we build through classroom guidance, but as well as with our teachers. This year, we started the school year off really trying to focus on kid before content. And not that that hasn't been the case before, but we were very intentional this year after coming off of a semester, spring semester, where things just kind of ended and they didn't know they were going to end, and then having to make that adjustment this year, we were very intentional in that. So from a mental health standpoint is making sure that from a school standpoint, we're building those skills, but in an environment that students feel safe.
Dawn, you're on mute.
Thank you. What are some of the signs that indicate someone is in a mental health crisis? This is for our panelists, this is for everyone. What are some of the signs that you all can share that someone might be in a mental health crisis?
This is Sharon. Someone who is crying uncontrollably, not able to make decisions. There's a drastic change in their appearance, the way that they present or act or conduct themselves. Some of the things that come to mind.
And this is Kenyatta. Also, people who are extremely anxious, having that, anxiety, paranoia, or excessive worry or fear about something. Individuals start, isolating or withdrawing from their family, from their friends, from their normal activities, and maybe problems sleeping or oversleeping, or just sometimes things that stand out.
Anything else to add?
And I agree with all of that. And in the school system, because our teachers spend a lot of time, especially our elementary school teachers, spending the bulk of the day with the students, sometimes it's those drastic changes that they see over time. And so I agree, the anxiety and the stress level that we're seeing changes in how they're doing their work or their attention to the details, that maybe a student who was very focused on that, and now they're not being seen with their changes in who they hang out with or where they sit during lunch. Those are some changes that students are seeing. Emotional roller coaster. One day they come in, they're really happy. The next day they come in and they, are sad or are not controlling. But absences and attendance play a lot into what we see in the school system as well. And students start missing and they weren't missing, are some of the red flags that we see in the school system.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I do want to add, we rely a lot on the teachers of bringing those things to our attention as well. But oftentimes due to social media, a lot of students express that in what they write on social media posts. So oftentimes we get some of those things from outside the school system with people bringing it to our attention in the school, that students may have posted things that may be somewhat alarming.
I just want to add repeated drug or alcohol use as a way of coping. If that's an increase, that could be a sign as well.
So a question is, if you don't know, what should people do? If you think something is up with somebody, should you just ask? If you see, this is for any of you all, if you're not sure.
My answer would be yes, just ask the question.
Yes, keep those lines of communications open. Sometimes we think that people don't want to talk about it, but sometimes people are crying out for help and they do want to talk about it, and they hope that, that there's someone in their life or someone in their circle that will just simply ask them, are they okay? I think there was a meme at one time going around social media is check on your strongest friends, because you never know what someone is going through. So ask the question. When in doubt, ask.
How do you do
And
that?
And that's one of the biggest things from youth mental health first aid. Oftentimes we think asking someone if they're thinking about killing themselves is going to put the idea in their mind, and that's not the case. So if you feel like someone you know, whether it's an adult or a child, is expressing or if you feel from what you're seeing that they may be thinking that way, don't just dance around the subject. You need to come right out and ask, are you thinking about killing yourself? Because one of the examples in the youth mental health first aid training is Kevin Hines, who is a survivor from trying to take his own life by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And the entire time from leaving his house to getting there, he was just hoping that someone would ask him the question. And so you hear more and more that is needed. So don't be afraid to ask.
Okay, thank you so very much. You know, according to the Mental Health of America, they said that there is still unmet need for mental health treatment among youth and adults. 60% of the youth with major depression did not receive any mental health treatment in the last year, even in states where with the greatest access, over 38% are not receiving mental health services. So what do you consider are some of the barriers for people who face, what barriers do you think people face when they want to receive mental health services?
Well, I'll speak for what I've been hearing in our schools. We have been very fortunate in our county. We have what is called a care program, which means children at risk in education. And through that care program over the last 20 years, we have partnered with agencies throughout our community, and they've agreed to give free initial assessments. So that free initial assessment really does help our parents not to have an excuse not to be able to afford to go and see someone. But we're finding that more and more people, even though they're willing to give the free initial assessment, most of the payment is self-pay versus insurance funded. And so that sometimes become a problem with parents being able to continue to receive the services if they're needed. Now, we have worked really hard, and I know our social workers can attest to this. Ms. Karen Spangler, who was the coordinator for our care program prior to her retirement, worked really hard with our agencies to have sliding scales, to really put that information out to our schools so that as we are making referrals to our parents and our students, they can, get on a payment plan. But that's becoming increasingly difficult to continue when insurance is not a part. And then the places that do have insurance, it's the long wait for appointment times. This year, we've had the good flexibility of the virtual sessions, but a lot of our younger students, they really need that face-to-face, and we're having increasingly difficult time to that. The other thing is counselors who are bilingual. And so with those families who, even though the child may speak English fluently, the parents may not. And having that person in the counseling agency that's able to connect with that parent, that's some of the barriers that we're facing here in our county. Because we are fortunate, we have 35 plus agencies who are willing to do a free initial assessment. It is getting past that free initial assessment.
And I'm glad Ms. Bonner mentioned that because earlier when I was talking about McIntosh Trail, we are one of the 25 community service boards across the state of Georgia. And so every county in Georgia is represented by a community service board. So what that means is we're the safety net. So we are for the individuals who don't have health insurance. It's known as the indigent population. So for our children, for adults who need those services and don't have insurance, they come into us and we are able to bill DBHCD, AKA the state, for their services. So that's one of the things that, we can kind of help with that. And then also, one of the things that we do struggle with across the CSBs is, especially in more rural areas, which is not really an issue in Fayette County, but just having the fully licensed clinicians or the clinicians that can provide the services. We, in addition to seeing individuals who don't have insurance, we do see individuals with insurance. And so the insurance panels will only allow fully licensed clinicians. So that's your LCSWs, your LPCs, your LMFTs to actually provide the services. So that is a barrier as well that we're just trying to work through. So we're advocating, we take interns so that we can kind of mold them and guide them and get them to the fully licensed place so that we can then hire them on and help with that.
So do you have enough staff? How are you doing?
So we are down 2 clinicians in our 2 most rural counties, which is Lamar County and Upson County. So those are the 2 counties that we are struggling with a little bit. But right now, because we are able to provide the telemental health services, that has been helpful because now my clinicians sitting in Fayette County can provide telemental health services to a person in need in Upson County. So we've been utilizing that.
So how are you doing here in Fayette County in terms of in terms of appointments and people being able to reach help?
So that's a good question. We are fully staffed in Fayette County for the first time in a long time. So I'm so proud to say that. So we do offer walk-in appointments. Our Fayette County office is open 4 days a week. They're closed on Tuesdays. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, a person can walk in and get an assessment done. And if we have our director who is licensed as well, so she's able to pitch in if one of the clinicians is full or booked up. So our wait time should be 1 to 2 days for an initial intake. But again, with cancellations and things, oftentimes we're able to see people that day in.
And I will say from the school standpoint, I've heard nothing but praises from especially those parents who need to get in and have the walk-in and having that from McIntosh Trail for our student population who they don't have insurance. The thing about a lot of our students and families that they do have the insurance, and that's sometimes we're our problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a couple more other barriers to add, if that's okay, Dawn.
Sure.
Okay, sometimes not having the knowledge about the mental health services, what's available to them, sometimes not seeing their problem as big enough to seek out help. And sometimes people are just committed to, I've been handling things on my own and I will continue to handle it. So those beliefs sometimes keep them from reaching out, and that can be a barrier to them receiving services as well.
Thanks for sharing that, because often when we think about our physical health, there's lots of information about physical health, but mental health is different for a lot of folks. And that's why often they say there's a stigma around mental health. And so, and when we think about the stigma, how's that playing into people even identifying, like you just said, Ms. Grant, that some people think I can handle it, I got this. And what are some of those thoughts that people have for not receiving or not seeking help?
Well, nobody cares is one that comes to mind initially, is that nobody cares about them and what's going on with them. They oftentimes isolate themselves from people. Sometimes they may have burned bridges, especially with family. And so they are burned bridges with the agency and may not want to reach back out to that agency for the assistance or help that they need, thinking that they are going to be judged.
Okay, judgment is a big deal in terms of what people think about receiving services. And what are some of those thoughts about receiving services? What do you think? I mean, just share, if any of you all on the panel, some of those things, why people don't seek services. what the fears are, what the anxiety is about seeking services?
I
Well,
think
we
it's a
faced them.
culture.
Yep, that's what I was going to go ahead.
Culture, yep, it's a cultural thing. Sometimes we are raised in a climate or a culture where mental health and seeking treatment outside the family is not acceptable. So sometimes, unfortunately, that's passed along through generations, and people feel maybe a sense of embarrassment if they have to seek help. So they oftentimes maybe try to downplay their symptoms or try to downplay everything's okay. In some cultures, it's about, maybe talking to your church or whatever type of religious belief, whatever your religious preference is. But sometimes people are not comfortable with that. So I think those are some of the challenges.
Okay.
I will say some of our programs, especially signs of suicide, even in talking with our faculty and staff who come to our youth mental health first aid, sometimes it's those aha moments, and it helps you to change the way you talk to people. When you say to them, if you're feeling this way, if you had a broken leg, would you go to the doctor? I mean, you wouldn't sit around and try to fix that yourself. So changing our conversation now to help people to understand that your mind is a part of your body. And just like you take care of everything else, if you had gotten a concussion, if you'd hit your head, you would have went to go and seek help for that. So helping not only our students, but as well as the adults in our building as they're having conversations with parents, because sometimes that's our barrier from a school system standpoint. The student wants to go to seek help, but it is helping the parent to understand why it's important for that student to receive the help that they need. So helping to educate our parents is something that we have continued to work on in our county.
Okay. Anything else about some of the barriers? Because we know that some folks, and thanks for sharing the thing about culture and how people were raised, because a lot of folks, say you're cray cray if you get help. And let's just say, that happens all the time. And because of it, they feel like they have to hold on. So I think that analogy you're using about physical, why it's important and what and what good mental health looks like, and it's okay, giving people permission. And I guess more people talking about, their own, I don't think there's enough people normalizing it. And so I think that's what you're suggesting, Ms. Bonner, is that we have to be able to normalize it, that seeking help when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling like you don't want to get out of bed, it's okay. And I don't know how we as a community can do that more so that people who need help can reach out and get help.
And I will say one of the, I guess the silver linings, if I would call it that, going through this pandemic, is the fact that we have more and more parents who are open now to seeing it differently than they may have, because we have been fortunate in our county to have our students back in the majority of our students back in the building and in the majority of our schools. So they're having that connection. But those parents who are really struggling with their students connecting and engaging at home, the conversations with the school counselors and I think even with our school social workers going out, I think parents are now a little more open to it. And I do think that I just recently had a meeting and we kind of reflected over the last year with the school counselors, and the increased need that we have, especially for the in-person counselors, is for our students who are doing school virtually. They almost need that connection with somebody because that's where the disconnect is happening. And so we're having an increased need because I think we're having more families and more parents to realize that they need it and it's okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Michael has some questions too that he wants to add, and he's always free. We're so happy because he works in kind of in the mental health arena. So go ahead, Michael.
Well, I'm getting a lot out of today's session. And you know, the thing about a Fayette Factor meeting is that virtually everyone in attendance could be on the panel today. That's what's really fascinating about this. So I want to call out three people who I think might have some perspective on here. One would be Mary Ann Cox, one would be Sheriff Babb, and one would be Dylan Nurse. And I wonder if each of you, when the Spirit calls you, share about what your takeaway is from today's conversation and what you'd like to add to it in a couple minutes or so. Anyone of you three?
And I also, what I would like to add, you know, in terms of other people on this call, we have some school social workers that are here. We and so that's important. If you all have something to add, Kim Bryan couldn't be here. I had talked to her earlier and she shared some things, but so would love if there are other folks that have things to add. And we've talked a lot about young folks, but people who work with older people in our community, if there are things that you can share about what you're seeing in answering some of the questions that we've asked. So
thank you. So let's start with Mary Ann and then Sheriff Babb and then Dylan. Mary Ann.
Hi there. For those of you who thought I had retired and fallen away, I'm still active. I am basically active with the Hispanic community. I have a number of agencies that I've worked with, and I just have the question about bilingual counselors and what might be available for those folks.
So sorry for the feedback. So I can't speak to what is out there totally. What I have access to is our care providers. So these are agencies who were willing to give the free initial assessment. And that continues to be a struggle for us to find agencies that have, or they may have them, and then, you know, in a couple of years, that person may have moved on to somewhere else. So we do have a few on our care provider list, but I know that has been something that we have tried to make sure that there's some every year. So every year, Ms. Spangler would try to go out, and if we lose one, to try to get, you know, see if we can find another one. But that is a struggle. That is one of our struggles, Ms. Cox.
And so Ms. Cox,
oh, go ahead.
No, but I was going to just let you guys know that so we do have a Hispanic speaking, Spanish speaking provider in our Henry County location currently right now, but also at any of our locations, we work closely with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, so we can get an interpreter in at any session. If, you know, and I know sometimes that's not really ideal talking through so forth, but that is just an option that we have available. So we can get an interpreter in any language to come for sessions.
Okay, I have actually done interpreting for counseling sessions, and it's not
ideal.
People don't want to open up in front of another person, so that's a difficult thing. The other question I have is for Sheriff Babb. I am a member of the St. Vincent de Paul Society from Holy Trinity Church, and recently we have had a client who is definitely suffering from some mental illness, and she was calling the sheriff. She was renting a room with a Hispanic family, and she was renting a room from them, and all of a sudden, and first of all, they were not documented, so that made things worse. She called the sheriff's department 3 times in a row to find out if this family had stolen her jacket, her coat, just things that were way out of line. We finally did get her out of that situation, but she's pretty much homeless right now. What do we do in situations like that? Anybody?
Well, I think that question was to Sheriff Babb.
Yeah, Thought I could hit my space bar and unmute it, but it didn't work there for a little bit. In that particular case, I think I know which case you're talking about. Was that, were they residing in Shiloh Mobile Home Park?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I think I texted with you about it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that case. We can talk about that offline about that particular case, but you know, we face so many different challenges, and the biggest problem that we run into is, and we probably all know this, is even if we get them help, usually it's for a very temporary time that they get stabilized, and then they're Ubered or lifted right back to the county, and then they're back to square one. And we do see that repeat cycle, especially, I mean, I can take you to my infirmary and see the repeat cycle. And I wished that there were places that took folks that could keep them that weren't a jail facility. And every sheriff in the state of Georgia, when we have our conferences and we have everybody come and speak to us, I mean, that's all of our biggest gripes. We all have the same problem where there's people in our jails that don't need to be there, but you have to understand, I don't control who's in jail. The courts control who's in jail. So that particular case, you know, you're welcome to call me again, and we'll do as much of an update as possible on that particular case. I am familiar with that. That is a regular, I don't want to say customer, but it's definitely a repeat call. And I knew Michael was going to come after me. So go ahead, Mike.
Well, you're just raising the question that with mental health issues increasing as they are, and with many of those cases ending up with some kind of law implication, right? There may be a breaking of law or something. Your office and the other 158 sheriff's office must be seeing more and more mental health issues. How is your office adjusting with that growth?
Well, I don't know if I would say we've got a growth, because it's kind of difficult to track. It's hard for me to say what is a mental health issue. What is a lot of times we see the addiction issues, the mental health issues, they cross and intertwine. The biggest key for me is having a good medical contract with a good provider. Turn my radio off over here. With a good provider that deals with the mental health issue. The company that we partnered with, I guess it was at least a year ago, the reason we chose that company was their ability to address mental health issues better than the company before. And it's the first change we'd made in a long time, but we kept seeing that lapse with the company before. So we actually chose our new provider because of the success that we had saw in some of the other facilities around the state with their mental health. And it's just something that we have to stay on top of. And, I can tell you about the repeat customers, if that's a term, but we see the repeat people because they go back into society, whether they serve their time or the judge dismisses cases or whatever, and then they go right back out. One girl that routinely would walk around naked. So one of the municipalities had to deal with that. She would wind back up in jail. She can't bond out. The courts would require her to stay here. Of course, she had compounded problems. She even had a pregnancy at one time with us. So you see that it just kind of grows. It's sad, but that's one of the things that I'm here for today, is to support Miss Walker, because she's our CEO with McIntosh Trail, and I sit on that board. So that's how you got me on here today, especially on a Monday. That's why I was a little late. Mondays are a disaster in law enforcement because things have been churning all weekend. You have to deal with on Mondays, but support her. And that's one of the reasons I'm on the board. It was a suggestion that, and I got placed on this board for me to be able to see issues and connect back to Miss Walker and to connect to McIntosh Trail to better meet our needs in our community.
Before I shift over to Dylan, Kenyatta, do you want to comment on that? On what Sheriff just said?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, it's very prevalent. We are seeing an increase of mental health individuals, in and out of jail. It's a revolving door. And so, our hope is to partner with the sheriff's departments across all of our counties to kind of work out something. We honestly, we have right now where the sheriff's department can reach out to us and say, hey, we have this person in our jail. We think there's some mental health going on. And we coordinate a time for them to transport them to Pine Woods, which is our behavioral health crisis center in Griffin, where they're able to come there. We're able to diagnose if there's a problem, treat them, prescribe them some medications in hopes that that'll help. So those are some of the things that we're doing. In another county, we have an MOU with the law enforcement in that county, where if they have a person that they pick up off the street and they think that person is presenting with a mental health crisis, they will bring them to us as well, so that we can, in lieu of going to jail, they will bring them to us so that we can kind of treat the problem. Because oftentimes it's their mental health symptoms that's kind of causing the symptoms to increase. So that is something that we can do, because we want to keep them out of jail and get them the help that they need.
Thank you, Kenyatta. Dylan, would you like to add a few words and introduce yourself?
Yes, happy to. My name is Dylan Nurse. I'm Congressman Scott's district director. And I wanted to just emphasize how important the work you're doing is, but also that we understand that this pandemic has exacerbated a lot of issues for communities that, like mental health conditions. It's not just the pandemic that we're dealing with, which is why a lot of funding from the American Rescue Plan is focused on trying to backstop the financial situation for communities. So just for example, in Fayette County, the county is going to get $22.19 million. Fayetteville, this city, is going to get 5.67. Peachtree City is going to get 11.41. And that's going to be non-entitlement allocation projections for what we're expecting them to get. And some of those allocations will likely go to making sure holes in budgets get filled, but they can also be used to help with housing the homeless. A lot of the problems that we've seen, like a lack of rental assistance, especially, I'm sure the sheriff's going to see this if they don't keep extending the moratorium on evictions, is a lot of folks are going to be in a bad place very soon. And so the Georgia Department of Community Affairs will be handling Fayette County applications for rental assistance. And they already have their program online. And they've received about $553 million. And they also will be administering a housing program, much like Home Safe Georgia, for those who are familiar, where they'll have $313 million to assist Georgians who are dealing with mortgage issues. Beyond that, we're very pleased that the Fayette County School District is going to get about $10.25 million for assistance through the local educational agency grants, through the elementary and secondary school emergency relief portion of the American Rescue Act. And what may end up being a little bit more of assistance for addressing some of the specific mental health issues that you're seeing. We are seeing, at least in our district, 3 of the federally qualified health centers Family Health Centers of Georgia, Southside Medical Center, and Palmetto Health Council. They're receiving about $20 million or so, maybe a little short of that, in federal assistance, not just for pandemic, reaching out to folks, making sure, I understand that vaccinations and the stress and anxiety of being able to engage in society are probably fueling a lot of the mental health issues that we've seen going on over the last year. And so making sure that they have mobile units for vaccinations and all these other types of projects
You're breaking
that,
up.
that are
Sister.
contributing to get it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Just a little bit, but maybe you can repeat that there's going to be more money available for mental health needs in our county.
Well, so there will be the federally qualified health centers are going to receive extra money, about $18 to $20 million for the ones that are in Congressman Scott's district, which
So do
are
we have
ranging.
could you say who serves Fayette County?
I believe that Palmetto Health Council has resources that help in Fayette, because they have they're also known as Your Town. So they have a number of facilities across the southern metro area.
Okay.
But one of the great things about the funding, the non-entitlement allocation projections that I was talking about, Fayette County has a lot of power over how they're going to use that funding. So if they choose to support nonprofits that are like many of the folks on this call to provide that type of assistance, that's within the power of their budgetary constraints. So
you have brought up something very wonderful, because folks don't know it yet, but we are inviting some of our nonprofits to talk about, how to work with our county to make sure that nonprofits have more allocations and help for the things that they're seeing that has been exacerbated because of COVID. So thank you so much for sharing all of that, because our CEOs of our nonprofit organizations will shortly get an email about that. So thank you so very much for sharing. One of the things that I'd like to say is, if people have questions, to go ahead and put them in the chat box, because Michael was right. We have lots of folks who are on this call. I would love to hear from some of our school social workers and other folks, in terms of what you're seeing, and because we want to end with what are some things that we can do as a community, because certainly we're trending up, and the COVID certainly has exacerbated all of that. So go ahead and put things in the chat if you can. And I would love to hear from any of our school social workers that are on the call, to say kind of some of the things that you see that are needed. I know Ewing's there, Shanika's there. I can't see all the names. Or Dr. Turner.
Hi, Dawn. This is Yulene here. I'm one of the school social workers. So as far as our needs, we like Lakeisha said, we work collaboratively as a wraparound program, connecting families to resources and communities. So we'll meet with the families, assess their needs, what kind of insurance they have, what providers are close to them and accept their insurance, and brainstorm with them ways to set up counseling and walk them through that process.
We appreciate that. Sharon, one of our panelists, where are you? Are there things that you think as a provider that the community could do more of? Sharon,
Well, I would love to see the nonprofits and the for-profits come together and partner and help each other out. I don't know enough to say it's a competition, but I just would love to see them be able to work together collaborative for the needs of individuals that need the help. If there's anyone that would like to comment about that, I would love to hear some feedback about that. And is that possible?
What would that look like, Sharon?
I'm hoping somebody can give me an idea. I just feel like there's money going different places, and making sure that the needs of the individual is met. So I'm not a nonprofit, I am a for-profit. So if there's anyone that is a nonprofit on this call, I would love to hear how we could partner with one another.
Hey, this is Deb Presley Christensen with Fayette Care Clinic.
Yes, Deb.
Okay, and we actually do refer to McIntosh Trail for uninsured adult patients. And, they see our patients for a variety of reasons, from major depressive disorder, things, even ADHD, manic depression, bipolar disorder, a lot of different health issues. However, when we refer, about half of our patients don't actually follow up on the referrals after we refer for various reasons that, we've even already discussed. Because of lack of funding, we've had to eliminate a couple of positions. And what we really need is to be able to provide the extra support that our patients need to actually complete the referrals and to go through, with their treatment. And so, I can see a need for us to we have right now one health coach that does follow up with some of our patients, but it's just not enough, so we need, funding to be able to have those positions to really make that patient coordination, to make sure that they get the treatment that they need, for their different issues mentally that they're having that prevent them even from, addressing their chronic disease, things like that.
In the school system, we use the Georgia Crisis Access Line as well as the app. So oftentimes when our students and parents are having a difficult time getting the actual appointments, we have had the mobile unit, parents have had the mobile unit to come out to their house in order to assist their students, and as well as using the app. But of course, we know that that's something that's statewide. I don't know whether we can make that be a little more just county and Fayette, but we do utilize those services as a resource for the county or for our schools.
A question that I have is how, just speaking to this, because, am I me? Okay. How do we use our voice and agency to advocate for more support? I'm just throwing out to anybody. Is there things that we can do to advocate for more support as mental health continues to be, it's been growing even before COVID and it continues to grow? Any thoughts, anyone?
Well, one of the agencies that has really stepped up and recognized that mental health is a big problem, not across the state of Georgia, is the Association of Commissioners. They have established a mental health component within that organization to sort of address the issues across the state of Georgia. And what I have been listening to is a lot of people are saying the same thing in different ways. What is missing? A lot of different things are missing. And how do we address this issue? It's going to take a lot of funding, and it's going to take a lot of attention to those needs. How do we get a person ready to step back into the community after experiencing a mental health crisis? The recovery process is different for each individual. So we are going to have to develop systems and put systems in place that will assist people in that recovery process. So the number of recidivisms will decrease not only to the jails, but to the mental health organizations. It's a work in progress.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Ted. You didn't tell folks, well, you have a lot of expertise having worked with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Are there other things that people think we can do collectively to address mental health? Because even though we're all in our own separate, spheres in terms of what we do, it affects all of us in some ways. Anybody have additional thoughts on things that we need to be doing, because it absolutely does threaten the health and well-being of our community if it's left unaddressed from the 30,000 level where we're looking at it, more holistically. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
I just want to piggyback off of what Ted said. So identifying where those gaps are and using the money that's being allocated to fill in those gaps will be very important.
Anyone else?
I'll just interject too, just having a voice at the table. And so when I think about the table, I think about, a lot of state dollars, a lot of federal dollars get funneled through the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. That's where, the money kind of comes through and they allocate it where they see the need. So just like the other agencies and CSBs and so forth, they have monthly board meetings. At their monthly board meetings, there is an opportunity for public, hearing from the public per se. And so, anyone can attend those public meetings and, and so forth, and just kind of getting our voices out there.
I think Abigail Clifford is with Department of Public Health. Is she here?
Yes, sorry, my computer died on me.
Okay. We were just asking about things that we could do as a community to help address mental health needs from a larger point of view. And so from the Department of Public Health, any thoughts?
So I'm actually the chronic disease prevention manager, but definitely, mental health, as we said, is part of your body and a system that goes right along with that. So as far as I am involved, definitely would love to provide resources for things like physical activity, nutrition, and things like that that could kind of stabilize and just have a wellness perspective on that. I'm still pretty new, so I haven't been formally introduced to our mental health sector, but definitely I'm still exploring and meeting everyone. So if I find anything amazing, I'll let you guys know.
Great. Just so you know, I actually reached out to Department DBHDD trying to find someone who could come, and I just have not gotten responses. And I tried for several weeks. And so that concerns me if I'm having a hard time having access, how that might be for other folks, because I just wanted to see how the crisis lines were looking, and what they were seeing and how they were trending, because we do have mental health crisis lines here in the state. So, and I know that's not in your department, that's not in the Department of Public Health, but that is certainly something that people can go to, the crisis lines. And I heard there was an uptick from Fayette County, but I wanted the real data and I haven't been able to get that yet. But when I do have it, I'm going to share it with everybody, because I do think mental health is a critical issue for our community. And the commissioners, and I think Mr. Dylan Nurse told us that there's money coming into our community. I think maybe 22 billion. I don't know. I think something like that, that the county commissioners have an opportunity to make some decisions about. And I think when they're making those decisions that mental health should be a part of that, but we need to make sure we have data to support the needs and be able to, somebody said we need to be able to identify where the gaps are. And so maybe that's another question we can ask. What are, is from wherever you are, from whatever you're seeing, for whatever position, be it Promise Place or Fayette Care Clinic or wherever, what are some of the gaps that you see that need to be filled? We're just taking notes here.
Well, speaking of data really quick, Dawn, forgive me, I don't know who the GYI is, but you entered some data in the chat box.
Sure.
I don't know what mobile crisis call, what a mobile crisis call is. If you wouldn't mind sharing about your data you just shared.
That's correct. Those are the mobile crisis calls for Fayette County that we average per month. I understand that if you need to gather information on the calls to the Georgia Crisis and Access Line, that is something that I can provide a contact for. I will have to say it may be delayed because it has to be approved by DBHD first, but I can certainly provide that contact information. Our teams go out to residences, and that is how many we average in Fayette County at this time.
And that's in the chat. Could you just repeat it out loud for everybody?
Oh, sure. Fayette County averages about 15 mobile crisis calls per month, and that is at residences. We do also respond to hospitals and also the Fayette County Jail. The starting point is the Georgia Crisis and Access Line at 1-800-715-4225.
Okay. Please, yeah, and please go ahead and send us information.
Sure.
You can send it to, if you either send it to everyone or you can send it to Michael and myself.
Okay. That sounds good. Will do.
Okay. Okay. Also, we're getting close to the time. I want to know if there are any questions, any other questions that anybody that's on this call has for either the panelists or anybody in general.
Or comments.
Well, from the school district, I just appreciate, as a former school counselor in the in one of our high schools, always having the support, not only of Fayette Factor, but community organizations willing to partner with us to provide support for our students. Like I said in the beginning, we are definitely triage. So we have to have the support of outside agencies to give our students more than we can provide in the school building, especially when it comes to mental health. So we appreciate your support and continue support.
Any other comments or questions before we end this meeting? You all are very quiet, you know. You can just speak up. You can just unmute your mic and speak up. We are, just so you know, we are, this for Fayette Factor, this is a very important issue for us because, you know, that's what you all told us last year, that mental health was one of those issues that threaten the health and well-being of our community. And so we're going to continue to pay attention to it, and we're going to try to convene the folks that need to be at the table so that we can indeed find where those gaps are, so that we can, as a community, have a community response. Because, you know, I think the more people we have talking about it and thinking about it, you know, not just in terms of help, you know, for individuals, but how to normalize help so that people feel like they can seek help for issues that they're having. So I think there's more work to be done. I told you, you know, an hour and a half would be not enough, but certainly we want to raise the topic that this is one of the things that are top of mind for Fayette Factor. And we'll continue to try to convene folks, and we'll be seeking help from you all. So, expect phone calls and emails as we continue to look at this issue as a county. Anything else before we close? Our next meeting is Monday, April the 26th.
Don, can I say?
Please do, Ms. Grant.
Sorry for interrupting. I'm not sure how many employers are on the call, but offering EAP benefits to your staff is an excellent way of promoting the culture of mental health.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, it is 1 o'clock. We've already given away our prize, so Deb will let you know how to get your prize to you. And thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today. We so appreciate it. So again, our next meeting is April 26th at 11:30, and that meeting will be by Zoom. And I'd like to thank our panelists, Ms. Lakeisha Bonner, Ms. Susan Sharon Grant, and Ms. Kenyatta Walker. Thank you so much for your time, and everybody else that's on the call. All righty. Bye.
Don, I'm gonna close up and then come to your office, okay?
Yeah, you'll do the recording thing?
Yeah.
Okay.